Excited to be here. I am a PM, product manager on Google Workspace, and I work specifically with Google Chat and third-party integrations with Google Chat. So chatbots, chat apps, and all those kind of things. And so very excited to be here in this forum and talk to all of you and answer some of your questions, hopefully. So hopefully we can get to that very quickly. Would love an interactive session here. All right, so what am I here to talk about? I'm not here actually to talk about dialogue flow or conversational and all those very interesting things, and that deserves its whole own session on how you can integrate dialogue flow with Google Chat and have great NLP experiences. I actually want to talk a little bit about a very specific thing that we've found at Google Workspace when we're working with very large enterprises. And we know that chatbots and chat apps can really transform how work is done, particularly in smaller organizations and startups. But we've seen that in larger organizations or enterprises, it can be quite different. There can be a little more process and thought that needs to go into being able to enable a great chat-based experience in those companies. And so I wanted to share some lessons we have learned at Google itself as we transform into a chatbot and chat-based enterprise, but also other very large enterprises that we work with, and share a little bit about what we've learned and some best practices for being able to really enable chat-based workflows at these large companies. So let me get started here. First, who's the audience for this talk? I hope everyone here, first of all, but a few key audiences here. Developers who may be in the audience who are interested in creating chat apps for large enterprises and kind of understanding what goes behind the process of these large enterprises trying to make this work. Oh, sorry, am I still okay here?
Yeah, you're live. We could see you. We could hear you.
Okay, sorry. I think the metaverse froze my computer a little bit. Apologies for that.
Yeah, it's a hog. It'll take a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So I'll close that for now. I can pop in later. But so developers, as well as admins who may be here who are really interested in chatbots and apps and want to figure out how to do this in a safe and secure way and really enable the transformation of your companies. And of course, anyone here who works in or with in a contract basis, an enterprise, and wants to encourage the use of chat apps. So hopefully this is useful for you in the audience. We've found through these multiple experiences at Google and other companies, there are kind of 5 key steps that are critical to enabling chatbots and apps in these enterprises. And I'll go through each of these in detail here. So I won't go in detail right now. I'll go through in the presentation. But so the first one may seem quite obvious, is pick the use cases you are targeting. And we've found in enterprises, there are a lot of really interesting use cases, more than I could cover here. But I want to highlight 3 use cases that we found are really, really interesting and are some of the ones that come up again and again. So first, DevOps. I think it's no surprise to anyone who's in the industry that DevOps chatbots are huge, have really transformed how many teams operate. Whether it's issue tracking from Jira or source code management in GitHub or incident response in PagerDuty, chat apps have really completely transformed how many DevOps teams work. So there's always those workflows. Then there are a couple interesting ones, customer service and sales, that are still emerging, but we think are really great opportunities to really transform how those teams work. So in customer service, a conversational support bot is given. Many enterprises try to have these types of bots. Then there's also the interesting, ticket management, being able to manage tickets as a customer support person right from chat, or collaborate with your teammates right from the communication tool that you're using. And so there are very interesting use cases here. And then in sales, there are also some really interesting use cases. Most salespeople will use some kind of customer relationship management software or CRM, and updating that and viewing that data is a key part of their workflow. And being able to do that right from Google Chat or your communication product is really key. Um, and then, of course, not just view data, you also want to collaborate with cross functional partners in engineering, support, marketing. And we've seen that this can really help accelerate sales flows and really close the deals quicker. And so we think it's a really critical workflow. Then there are also many cross-functional workflows that everyone may be doing. Task management, of course, whether it's a tool like Asana or another task management tool. Document management, everyone has hundreds of documents these days, and whether it's Google Drive or any other document management tool, that's really critical to have as workflows. And then a very new, interesting one that we've seen pop up is hybrid working. As I'm sure many of you or many of your workplaces are transitioning into a hybrid world where some people are going into the office, some people are choosing to remain remote, whether permanently or for a short period of time, or on an off basis. This has really brought up a lot of collaboration issues and problems to solve that are really interesting to solve via chatbots or chat apps. So these are some of the use cases. You know, the world's the limit. There's way more things that you could have, but these are some of the ones that we've really found are really critical for enterprises to have from a chat perspective. So for those use cases, before you go ahead and build something, the first step is really check if that a tool is already available for that function. And I'll talk a little bit about what's available in Google Chat in terms of the chatbots or chat apps that are available in some of these key verticals. So DevOps, for instance, is fairly well covered. We have some of the big hitters like Jira, GitHub, Jenkins, PagerDuty that are available. And so the DevOps workflow we understand is important, and we want to support those. And we're encouraging great set of chat apps, Google Chat apps in that workflow. The customer service and sales we see as a next big growth area. And so, folks like Zendesk, Salesforce, ServiceNow, these are all the ones that we're really interested in and investing to make sure that we can have a great experience within Google Chat with those products. And then there's lots of cross-functional tools, hundreds of tools you can find for Google Chat. Google Drive is one. This chat app is indispensable for me. Whenever someone makes a comment in Google Drive or shares a document with me, it pings me. And I love to know instantly that, okay, oh, I see that, and I can see the comment and respond. So that's a really great tool. But there's also others like Zapier, Asana, Giphy, for the fun type of flows, and Comene, which is a very interesting hybrid workplace app that's really interesting. And these are all available today, except for PagerDuty, which is coming soon. And you can add that app to a Google Chat space by mentioning them. So at Jira, for instance. So try that out next time you use Google Chat. All right, let's say the workflow you are looking at isn't available. Well, then there's lots of ways to build a great Google Chat app. And no matter what your capabilities or your interest level in programming, there is a way to build something that is very useful for you. So, if you're a very low code developer, webhooks are a highly underrated way of getting some great information into chat. We've actually found that a lot of internal enterprise chat apps or bots are actually fairly simple webhooks that post information from various interesting sources into a chat space. We have one at Google, for instance. I work in Google Workspace, and we have a blog called the Google Workspace Updates blog that shows some of the latest features that that have been released on Google Workspace. And we have a chat space with over 2,000, 3,000 people who are all interested in Google Workspace. And every time that blog post happens, there's a simple webhook that posts that information into chat. And you're able to have so much great conversation around that. So, even if you can barely code, webhooks are a great way to be able to do that. if you've dabbled in code and you're okay to do a little bit of code, there is a couple great tools. So AppScript is also another underrated tool. AppScript is Google Workspace's version of JavaScript, but it is actually deceptively powerful on what you could do, and it's fairly easy to use and to get started. And so it's a great tool for a citizen developer. And of course, I won't go into too much detail, but Dialogflow is also, you can do some very simple conversational bots using Dialogflow and Google Chat, and there is great material on that. If you are a professional developer, obviously you probably want to build a full-featured HTTP chat app that can do all kinds of things and respond asynchronously and have storage and all the rest. And so, that is a great option. And you can also build some very powerful and complex flows as well, if that's interesting to you. So there's an option for everybody, we find, and I would say don't overlook the humble webhook or the AppScript bot or app, and they can be quite powerful in terms of changing how enterprises work. So I will talk a little bit about the current capabilities of the Google Chat platform itself, and there's more coming as well. But some of the capabilities include link previews. So let's say you paste a link from that corresponds to something of a service that you provide. And here we're using this deskbooking.acme.com example. The chat app that you build can show some very interesting information regarding that link. So here, it's a fictional company. You're looking at your desk booking and you're sharing with your colleagues where your desk is, and then your colleagues can click through to navigate to that desk. Interesting hybrid workflow here. And then things like interactive dialogues are also possible. And so you can have a visual interface to really easily do things like change your desk and book your perfect desk, for instance. So you can use conversational AI. You can also use a very visual interface that may be easier for some. And you can use the right tool that works for you. So those are some of the existing capabilities. And you can already do some interesting things with it. But there are also some capabilities that are coming soon, and this is the exciting part about it's part of our developer preview program. These are not available yet, but they will be soon. And we're working on a few different improvements to the card visual framework so that the visuals are updated. But we're also working on building out a great, robust set of API methods and resources. And we're starting with something called Create Space and Create Membership, which you can see here. This is the PagerDuty app that we're also building, showing here how you can create a space based on an incident. So incident number 5 here, something is not working. You can add the right people, and the bot or app is able to programmatically add those people and have a discussion around that incident and be able to resolve that quicker. So there's more coming soon, but please join our developer preview program at the link provided down at the bottom, and you will be the first to hear of it before these are generally available. So please do sign up at that link. And then I do want to talk a little bit, once you've built it, there is a big part for enterprises in securing these chat apps or bots that you build. And we found a few steps that are helpful for Google and other Google Workspace enterprise customers. So one is context-aware access for Google Chat. So the interesting thing with context-aware access is that beyond the idea of a VPN or working on a corporate laptop and so on, context-aware access goes beyond that and really checks the various set of configurations and things that really make a product secure. So, for instance, you may be on a company-issued laptop, but your security patches are out of date. That laptop, even though it is a company laptop, is no longer secure. And so you do not potentially, if you are a large enterprise who's very concerned about these type of things, you may not want to expose corporate information on those laptops. And so Context-aware access allows you to set rules for how data can be shown or how tools can be accessed based on various security parameters. So it's a really interesting tool to truly secure the data that's really critical. Um, and when you start putting all kinds of this really critical workflows into Google Chat, the security becomes even more important. So the second step is user review process internally. If you are using or accessing sensitive corporate data, and set that up in such a way that it's fairly lightweight but rigorous, and happy to share more on this here. We've gone through a couple iterations of this process, and now it's much more lightweight but more effective. Then capture potential chat apps through a ticketing system as they're getting built, and make sure that those chat apps go through the appropriate security, privacy, and legal assessment that's appropriate for the use case. So, if it's a very simple celebratory bot or something that posts, celebratory gifts, maybe you don't really need all of these reviews. But if it posts sensitive company information like sales deals or things like that, you may want to have a little more of a review for those bots. And there is the allow list functionality in Google Chat and Google Workspace that allow you to only allow the chats that have gone through this process. And so you can make sure that the chat apps that are available to all the users in that enterprise are secure. So that's a little bit about security. It can be overlooked, but it's really critical for success in enterprise. Now, this is the fun one, empower others to build. So Google was not always a very chat-heavy culture, actually. As the makers of Gmail, we were also very used to Gmail. But we've managed to start to change that. And at these enterprises, it takes a while to change all of these types of things. But we've had really good success with starting very simply things like an internal chatbot hackathon. So we've done that at Google December last year, and it was such a successful event that that really kicked off dozens of chatbots that are widely used now. And so a few steps that we've done, provide attendees 101 sessions beforehand on how to do it and how to get quickly started, and code labs and all those types of things. Make it fun with pitches and pitch sessions, demos, and obviously prizes. And this, really does help improve, participation and engagement. And I'd love to show, some of the swag. It's very simple, but you provide a very interesting, nice T-shirt for prizes, and it can really get people excited about this. And then build a community. So in Google Chat, you can create a space with hundreds of people and be able to share that with those people. They can come join, talk about issues they're having or problems they'd like to solve, and really help build a community of bot builders within your enterprise, which is invaluable. As new people come, they join this space, they get onboarded. So it's an exciting way to really encourage chatbots in the enterprise. So definitely try an internal chatbot hackathon today in your company or enterprise. So those are kind of the 5 simple steps. It looks simple on surface. There are, of course, the devils in the details and so on. But these steps have helped Google and a couple of the enterprises we work with really transform into chatbot using enterprises, and it's really transformed the way we work. And even now, when Google and other companies are transitioning to a hybrid workplace, these bots have really changed the way people work. So with that, I'll stop here. I hope we have some time for Q&A, and pass it on to Stefan.
Yes, we definitely have time for Q&A. Well, thank you, Ramesh. That was very interesting. So we have a lot of people in attendance, and let's start with Q&A, and I'll start looking at it at the very bottom. We're still waiting for questions. So I'll ask you a meta question. What are the most common questions you guys get on this topic?
Yeah, I think you asked one before. What are we doing?
Yeah,
What is Google doing
yeah.
with Google Chat? And today, I think we shared a little bit. We do think Google Chat can really help transform workflows and work, and we see that in a couple different ways.
Mhm.
Definitely, conversational interfaces are really important, but we've also seen that simple visual workflows can be really additive as well. And sometimes those are the workflows that help get folks hooked on to using a
Uh-huh.
chatbot. And so a simple thing like desk booking, if people are able to do that visually in a visual way, that becomes toothbrush journeys that they may use, weekly or even a daily basis, and that really helps build the value of those bots. And then you can really build a lot more on top of it. You can build troubleshooting through, NLP or all those kind of deeper functionalities that you can really do. The sky's the limit there. But having really simple workflows be
Mhm.
able to be done, I think has really helped adoption at Google. So that's how we see it. We've talked to a couple enterprises as well, and we've seen similar kind of things. People are doing mostly very simple things with these bots,
Okay,
and that's what gets them on. But then once it's in there, you have an opportunity to really expand the capabilities of it, and build something really phenomenal over time.
I see. Was there anything that really surprised you that you didn't expect going in?
Um, so I think the most surprising, and I mentioned it, was the value of even the simple webhook um,
Okay, even just
in
that.
enterprise.
Yeah, was that valuable because of the scale that you're on, or was it valuable just because, like, on a per unit measure, was just in
Yeah,
of itself?
yeah, that's a really good question. I do think it has a lot to do with scale, and these webhooks are really helpful in very large team rooms or spaces where you have thousands of people and you want to stay up to date on some information.
Yeah.
It's all helpful to have this bot bring information in. And so it
Mhm.
helps, in that one space, it helps thousands of people in that one space. So that's the other interesting thing we really found is, there are different types of bots as well. There are some bots that are really helpful for individuals. So you may
Mhm.
have a conversation with that bot individually, one on one.
Mhm.
And some of them can be really valuable. So internally, we have a bot that helps you book your time off. And that's one of the most, successful flows we have at Google. You can tell that bot, I want to take time off, and it'll
And it'll take
go
care of
through
it.
all the systems to do that for you. So that's a
Yeah,
great individual use spot. But we
yeah.
also found that there are a set of bots that are used by teams, entire teams. And so you may have a team room with 10 people, you may have a team room with 100 people, you may have a larger room with 1,000 people. And those flows may not be as deep as that
Uh-huh.
individual bot, but they affect tens, hundreds, or thousands, and so you have that kind of viral effect.
I
It's
see.
affecting so many different people,
Yeah. So it's like the
and so
low hang yeah, it's the lowest hanging fruit, and then we're doing it with chat. And so this kind of ties into one of the questions that the audience is asking. It's from Alex. He's asking, what was your framework for determining which use cases are best suited for these chatbot experiences?
yeah, that's a great question. So we looked at the universe of chat apps that we found successful,
Uh-huh.
and we have a framework where actually I mentioned it a little bit, but
Mhm.
one is team based versus individual.
Okay.
And then another is kind of simple tasks versus more complex tasks.
Mhm.
And looking at all of those,
Okay.
not to say that there's one that's more important than another or not, but we found areas where some of the most successful bots um,
Mhm.
are, for instance, those team-based simple task ones, for instance, at least to get started. And then there are some individual, really complex flows that are interesting as well. And
Mhm.
so looking at those two, you know, in order to drive the biggest impact, we initially really decided to focus on the team-based simple workflows because
Okay.
that really does affect huge amounts of people. And there is a feature coming in Google Chat called Domain Install, which will allow admins to install that chatbot to everyone in that space. So it's very powerful in an enterprise. You can have 10,000, 100,000 people have using that chatbot. So we found those are the ones that get used by hundreds of thousands of people or 10,000s or hundreds of thousands. So those are the ones that really scale and get used daily. Not to say that those individual bot oriented bots are not important. We definitely see the love that some of Googlers have, for instance, for that time off bot, uh, and being able to do that in kind of a conversational interface. And there are other bots that are really interesting as well. But these team-based bots are what we've kind of prioritized in terms of it'll impact the most amount of people, really help collaboration and workflows, bringing entire team workflows right into chat. And so that's kind of the framework that we've used. We've decided to focus initially, at least, on these team-based chatbots.
So that's interesting that you guys went with Teams. Um, it so one of the other questions, and I like this question because I think it's so relevant, especially for enterprises, is can you explain a little bit about using ML and NLP in the context of enterprise data?
Yeah, that is a really good
'Cause-
question.
yeah,
And I would say it's an unsolved one.
it's unsolved.
But so we have seen some really successful uses of NLP.
Mhm,
And so I'll give you an example. So Google does have internal bug tracking and source code management tools that we use
mhm,
internally that are not available externally. So those tools are used, very often, and obviously contain a lot of Google data, Google sensitive data, and probably some of the most sensitive Google data.
yeah,
And we've seen one of the bots that one of the teams at Google have built being able to do tasks using NLP
uh-huh,
spot. So telling this bot, hey, this bug ticket, assign it to so and so, and the bot being able to do that, or hey, change the priority of this incident to high, very high. So that bot is able to do that, and some people really like using that,
mhm,
and so it is definitely interacting with sensitive data of that Google has, and so that security aspect is really important as well. That bot in particular is highly vetted to make sure, okay, it's safe to access that data in a safe way, and it's not doing anything that we wouldn't want it to do. And so the right privileges of that bot, for instance, are limited in a secure way, and that's
mhm,
verified by the security team and so on. So yeah, I think there's more to say around that
uh-huh,
topic, and I think it'll obviously grow in importance. How much can this bot do with this data? It's going to be very interesting, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a part of the Chatbot conference, Ramesh.